problem. And so I really think the federal government needs to step up to the plate. The time for half measures in this area are well and truly over. We need bold policy. So, Madam Speaker, I know I'm coming to the end of my time, but I just want to thank the House for this opportunity to speak to C-14. I know there's a lot to speak on. It's quite a big bill, but at this point, I'd welcome any comments and questions from my colleagues. Thank you so much.
The questions and comments will come after oral questions for the honourable member. Déclaration des députés.
Statements by members.
Honourable member for Bonavista, Burin, Trinity. Burin.
Madam Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to congratulate Premier Andrew Thierry on his recent election win in Newfoundland and Labrador. Also, I want to give a special recognition to all the successful candidates in my riding of Bonavista, Burin, Trinity, all of whom I truly look forward to working with to advance the needs of our common constituents. While this election took many twists and turns, the people of this province have spoken to give Premier Thierry a majority mandate to help guide us through the pandemic and beyond. I trust that all newly elected MHAs will work together to address the many challenges facing this province, especially with COVID-19, and that our federal government will be a strong partner with this province in this fight. Mr. Speaker, I ask everyone in the House to join me in sending congratulations and best wishes to the newly elected majority Liberal government here in Newfoundland and Labrador. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for Red Deer-Lacombe.
Madam Speaker, as the previous Member of Parliament for the constituency of Wetaskiwin, it's an absolute privilege for me to be in the House today to honour the 81st anniversary of the HMCS Wetaskiwin. Laid down in North Vancouver on April 11th, 1940, this Flower-class corvette proudly launched on July 18th, 1940, and on December 17th was the first West Coast-built corvette to enter service with the Royal Canadian Navy during the Second World War. She participated in 40 transatlantic convoys, including the largest convoy of the Second World War, with 166 ships escorted without loss. July 31st, 1942, while escorting convoy Oscar November 115, she and the HMCS Skeena sank the U-boat U-588. The HMCS Wetaskiwin received battle honors in the Atlantic 1941 to 1945 and the Gulf of St. Lawrence 1944. She and her crews served our nation proudly and with honor. It's important to pause to reflect and remember the important events that have shaped our nation's great history.
The honourable member for Lac Saint Louis.
On March 31st, McGill University celebrated the 200th anniversary of its founding. This historic institution of higher learning has been central to Canada's intellectual, cultural, political, social, and economic development. McGill's greatest strength has always been its people. Trailblazers such as Madeleine Parent, Maud Abbott, and Ernest Rutherford have inspired generations of students. The university's faculties, including medicine, law, the arts, education, engineering, agricultural sciences, and social work, have contributed immeasurably to the progress of society. Aujourd'hui, l'université
Today, McGill has some 39,700 students, including over 27,000 undergrads, over 10,000 graduate students, nearly 2,000 residents and grant students and postdoctoral researchers.
Proud representative in Parliament of the university's McDonald campus, I wish McGill continued great success in its world-class educational mission.
The honourable member for La Pointe de l'Île. Mr. Speaker, today we received disturbing news about Laurentian University in Sudbury and regarding the future of French in Canada. The university is preparing to cut some 60 programs to avoid bankruptcy. And we've learned that programs offered to Francophones are particularly targeted. Once again, it is French and Francophone institutions that are first to be sacrificed in Canada. Mr. Speaker, the Bloc would like to reiterate its support for the ongoing struggle of Franco-Ontarians for their language. We stress that studying in one's language is a fundamental right. Young people in the sizable Francophone community of northeastern Ontario deserve quality services without being forced to move to Ottawa or Quebec. We know that the Minister of Official Languages should send a clear signal to all Francophones outside of Quebec, and she must prove that her government's sudden interest in protecting French translates into concrete action. The Honourable Member for Pelon. Mr. Speaker, artists are creators who poetically share their visions of the world. Today, I would like to pay tribute to an artist from my writing, Mr. Edgardo Durisotti. Born in 1929 in northern Italy, he was introduced to painting at a very young age, and he immigrated to Canada in 1954 to create religious art. Mr. Durisotti is one of the few to apply gold leaf on ecclesiastical ornaments, but also he restores frescoes and statues. He has left his mark on many churches in Quebec and in the Maritimes. And I've had the honor to know him personally and to have one of his prints on the wall of my constituency office. After 91 years, this talented artist is now hanging up his tools, but he remains very present through his works.
Signore Durisotti.
L'honorable.
The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, on March 31st, our region lost an important player in our region. Robert Hakim was more than a cousin for me, he was a friend. He worked in the cultural sector, and Quebecers were able to benefit from key events thanks to him. In terms of the international festivals he organized and the Festival of Beer, they were great successes. Robert was a key player. He was an intelligent, credible, cultured, and most importantly, very generous. He had a great influence on the lives of many people, including mine. The entire region will miss you. March 31st will now mark a more darker period for the Saguenay region. We hope that the culture that you allowed us to have will thrive. Rest in peace.
L'honorable.
The Honourable Member for Miramichi Grand Lake.
Mr. Speaker, today I am filled both with deep sorrow and great joy. On the opening day of our region's snow crab season last week, 2 members of the Elsipogtog First Nation, Seth Monahan and band councillor Craig Sock, also widely known as Jumbo, tragically lost their lives. The community has been mourning this great loss. I had the honor of having Jumbo present at my swearing-in ceremony in 2019, and seeing him sit in my seat in the chamber is a memory I will always cherish. Before his passing, Councillor Jumbo, along with community, had been working hard for many weeks towards the goal of having Elsipogtog name this year's Craft Hockeyville. Well, Mr. Speaker, the region came together to support a community in mourning on Saturday night. They were named the winners. This will allow them to rebuild the Chief Young Eagle Arena and an integral part of the community. Mr. Speaker, the spirit and memory of Jumbo and Seth will live on in Elsipogtog, and I hope this great win will help them with their healing. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Léonard, Saint-Michel. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is with great sadness that on March 28th, the Italian-Canadian community lost Senator Marisa Ferretti-Barth, a caring and altruistic woman. The senator was well known in Montreal. Throughout her life, she was dedicated to the welfare of the elderly. She created more than 84 Golden Age clubs and founded the Regional Council of Italian-Canadian Seniors, the CRAIC. Her initiatives led to the creation and improvement of living environments for hundreds and thousands of seniors, helping them to break the isolation and thrive.
The achievements and memberships in various boards were recognized, as she was in 1997 duly named to the Canadian Senate. Her appointment was historic, as she was the first woman of Italian origin to ascend to the top leadership position in Canada's Parliament. Her accomplishments were remarkable and noteworthy, as she achieved them despite the challenges of gender equality. Her contributions to the well-being of our seniors and to the Italian community will always be an inspiration to me and to the many who knew and worked with her. Alla famiglia e agli amici della senatrice ricevete le nostre sentite condoglianze.
The honourable member for Saskatoon Grasswood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. April marks the Canadian Cancer Society's Daffodil Campaign, an opportunity for us to show support for the over 1 million Canadians living and beyond cancers, and have remembered those who we have lost after their own courageous battles with this disease. This year, the Daffodil campaign has gone virtual. Canadians can go to cancer.ca to donate and create their digital daffodil to honor and remember those who have fought this terrible disease. Mr. Speaker, nearly half of Canadians will be diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime, and every family is impacted by the disease in one way or another. I encourage all members of this House, and indeed all Canadians who have the means, to donate generously to this worthy cause. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Kingston and the Islands.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to share the miraculous story of Jude Layton. On March 28th, 3-year-old Jude was reported missing in rural South Frontenac, Ontario, just north of my riding. The Ontario Provincial Police and community volunteers quickly coordinated a search response. This involved over 100 people navigating rough terrain as they scoured the surrounding area searching for Jude. For 3 long days, Mr. Speaker, communities across Ontario were following the news closely, praying for Jude's safe return. On the afternoon of March 31st, the news broke that Jude had beat the odds and was found by an emergency response team alive and well after spending 3 days and nights, sometimes in below-zero temperatures and rainy conditions, roaming through the forest. As a father, like so many parents, I was overjoyed and immensely relieved to hear that Jude was found safe. I can only imagine how Jude's family felt when they came to learn that he would safely be returned. It is with great respect and gratitude that I acknowledge the many police officers, community volunteers, firefighters, and first responders who worked tirelessly for this incredible outcome to bring 3-year-old Jude home. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Calgary Confederation.
Mr. Speaker, April is Organ and Tissue Donation Awareness Month. It is a month to highlight and raise awareness about the critical need for more donors across the country. It is a month that encourages Canadians to register their decision. Most importantly, it is a month to encourage Canadians to have important conversations with their friends and loved ones about their decision to donate and to ensure that their organ donation wishes are understood. Every week, 5 Canadians die awaiting a life-saving transplant. Every week, we lose 5 Canadians who could have enjoyed many more years of life if they got their transplant. Every day, we dispose of perfectly good organs while others in our community sit by the phone waiting for that second chance at life. Sadly, the pandemic has reduced transplants by 30% this past year. Canadians overwhelmingly support organ and tissue donation, but we need to take that support just one more step. Register with your provincial registries today. Tell your loved ones that you want to save a life when you die. Ask them to respect your final wishes.
The honourable member for Lambton, Kent, Middlesex.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister and this government did not just drop the ball, they buried it. This government's handling of the COVID crisis will go down in history as a prime example of how not to deal with a problem of national scope. Last spring, the Prime Minister put all of Canada's eggs in one basket, turning to communist China for vaccines. Last week, the Liberals decided that their pet policies are more important than getting Canada's economy going and making a plan to return Canadians' life to normal. Mr. Speaker, it's time for the so-called woke Prime Minister to wake up. That is why we here on this side of the House are calling for a public inquiry to examine every aspect of this government's pandemic response. Conservatives are also calling for the appointment of a special monitor from the Office of the Auditor General to track the pandemic response in real time and to ensure that lessons learned are captured for future emergency responses. Mr. Speaker, if nothing else, this government should try to learn from its abject failure.
The Honourable Member for Esquimalt, Saanich Sooke.
Mr. Speaker, I rise virtually today to express condolences on behalf of New Democrats to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth and the entire royal family on the death of Prince Philip. As for all families who've lost loved ones during this pandemic, necessary restrictions make these losses even harder to bear. Prince Philip will be remembered not just for being the longest-serving consort in the history of the British monarchy, but also for the person he was. Someone dedicated to encouraging young people to set high goals and work hard to achieve them through the Duke of Edinburgh Awards. Someone who recognized the importance of the conservation movement in keeping our world habitable. Someone who could support a powerful and strong partner and only rarely, if ever, get caught trying to upstage her. Someone who was a dedicated public servant, keeping an active schedule well into his 90s, even remarking at one point that he was probably the world's most experienced plaque unveiler. And let us not forget that Prince Philip was also a World War II naval veteran, as we wish him fair winds and following seas in bidding him farewell.
The Honourable Member for Berthier-Maskinongé. Mr. Speaker, last Saturday was New Generation of Farmers Day 2021. Because of the pandemic, it was through a virtual evening that these young people gathered to have fun and to talk. We must support the next generation of farmers and put in place winning conditions. Encouraging this new generation of farmers will benefit the entire country's economy and ensure our food sovereignty. This requires government action to facilitate the transfer of farms between generations and to create the situation that makes it easier to transfer a farm to a stranger than to one's own children. I also urge parliamentarians to continue to support Bill C-216 to protect supply management and future trade negotiations. This will ensure predictability for young people involved in this production. Like the Bloc, all parliamentarians must show that they are proud of our farmers and that they want to ensure the future of our agricultural sector. Thank you.
For Sarnia-Lambton.
Mr. Speaker, I want to take this moment to give my deep condolences to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth and the family of His Royal Highness Prince Philip on his passing earlier this week. Prince Philip presented a shining example of loyalty, honor, and committed service, both as the Queen's husband and consort and in his work for the British Commonwealth. He served for decades as the Colonel-in-Chief of the Royal Canadian Regiment, during which he developed a strong bond with Canada. His Royal Highness was an ardent supporter of our Canadian military and its families. His ties formed and strengthened during his experiences alongside Canadians fighting in the Second World War. He visited Canada more than 60 times, including Sarnia-Lambton. In 2011, upon the occasion of his 90th birthday, the Canadian government honored His Royal Highness by naming him General of the Canadian Army, General of the Royal Canadian Air Force, and Admiral of the Royal Canadian Navy. The death of Prince Philip is a loss to the Commonwealth and its people. May he rest in peace.
The Honourable Member of Moncton Riverview Dieppe.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, it is with great sadness last week that we learned of the passing of His Royal Highness, the Duke of Edinburgh.
Others, first as a decorated naval officer and later as a dedicated leader in the area of community engagement and philanthropy. The Duke always sought out the best in people and challenged them to strive for greater heights. Prince Philip maintained a very special relationship with the Canadian Armed Forces and over the years became the Colonel-in-Chief of 6 Canadian units. In 2011, he was named the Honorary General of the Canadian Army and the Royal Canadian Air Force, as well as the Honorary Admiral of the Royal Canadian Navy. Prince Philip was a man of great purpose and conviction who was motivated by a sense of duty to others. Her Queen lost a lifelong companion who was always by her side, and a family lost a beloved husband, papa, grandfather, and great-grandfather.
On behalf of all Canadians, I offer my sincerest condolences to Queen Elizabeth II and members of the royal family. May he rest in peace.
There's been discussion among representatives of all parties in the House, and there is an agreement to observe a moment of silence in memory of His late Royal Highness Prince Philip. I now invite honourable members to rise. oral questions. Question orale. The honourable member for Portage-Lisker.
Mr. Speaker, the third wave is here. And while other countries are getting vaccinated and opening up, Canadians are being locked down yet again. Yesterday, Canada officially passed the United States in the number of new cases per capita. 20% of Americans are fully vaccinated. Only 2% of Canadians are. Can the Prime Minister admit that his slow vaccine rollout has resulted in the third wave of COVID-19 on Canadians and more destructive lockdowns?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for the question. And indeed, we surpassed our 6 million target prior to the end of March by receiving 9.5 million doses here. We are on track to get 44 million doses into this country by the end of June and 110 million by the end of September. We'll continue providing the provinces and territories with vaccines, and we will work together as a country to ensure that all Canadians who wish to have access to a vaccine will have one prior to the end of September. Thank you.
The honourable member for Portage-Lisker.
Avoid all travel to Canada. Because of the current situation in Canada, even fully vaccinated travelers may be at risk. Mr. Speaker, that's what the Centers for Disease Control told Americans last week. Now, we know the Prime Minister is trying to blame the provinces for vaccines in freezers, but it's his slow and inconsistent rollout that is causing such poor delivery. How does the Prime Minister mess things up so badly so that traveling to Canada is now a risk to your health?
The Honourable Minister.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And first of all, my heart goes out to everyone who's struggling with COVID-19, whether they've been personally affected by it or they're on the front lines of our healthcare system working to save lives. Mr. Speaker, the member opposite is right. Now is not the time to travel internationally. And I believe that it is very important that Canadians continue their hard work to protect each other. We know Canadians have sacrificed so much. We see the finish line, Mr. Speaker. We will get there safely if we work together.
Honourable Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Most of this country is facing new and devastating restrictions, and it is a direct result of the Liberal government's inability to get vaccines. To add insult to injury, Canadians are being told they're going to have to wait 4 months for a second dose. Canadians are being forced to accept substandard dosage intervals. Why? Because the Liberals can't get vaccines on time. How long will Canadians be punished because of the Liberals' failed vaccine rollout?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we know that vaccines are an important tool to save lives and stop the spread. But we know also, Mr. Speaker, that while we vaccinate, we have to continue to apply appropriate public health measures to protect each other. We also know, Mr. Speaker, that it's not the federal government that decides which public health measures need to stay in place in which province or territory. I want to thank all Canadians, Mr. Speaker, who are working so hard, making so many sacrifices to protect each other, knowing that we're going to be stronger together when we get through this.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, the third wave has hit Canada extremely hard, harder than elsewhere, and this because of the Liberal government's negotiation of the vaccinations. Barely 2% of Canadians have gotten their second dose. In the UK, it's 11%. In the US, it's 20%. 10 times more Americans are vaccinated than we are. 5 times more Brits than us. It doesn't make any sense for a G7 country that we're all proud of. Why is this government delayed when it comes to vaccinations? The Honourable Minister.
Merci pour.
Thank you for the question. Canada is now on track to receive a total of 43 million vaccines by the end of June, and vaccines for more than all Canadians by the end of the summer. Our work is not over until all Canadians have access to a vaccine, and we will continue to work hard and collaborate with the provinces and territories to ensure the success of these efforts. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, I want to congratulate the minister for her work on her French, but the issue here is troubling. We see that in the U.S., the number of new cases has stabilized in the last month. In Canada, we've seen a tripling in the number of cases of COVID-19. This is not acceptable. The best remedy is vaccinations, but we have to have access to vaccines to do that. The third wave has hard hit Canada as a result of the Liberal wave. Why did the government fail in this duty? The Honourable Minister. Thank you very much for the question once again. We will have enough vaccines in this country for every individual who wishes to be vaccinated by the end of September. As I've already said, we have seen that deliveries from Pfizer have intensified, and we have received at least 1 million doses every week between March 22nd to the 11th of May. Canada has received 10 million Pfizer Moderna doses and AstraZeneca doses to date. The deliveries of the vaccine has resumed. It was a temporary delay. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, as the budget approaches, a senior official showed the federal government's state of mind. Asked by CBC about federal interference in areas under provincial jurisdiction, he said the following: it's the feds that have the spending power. If we set out the terms and the money, the provinces who want to be early movers on this will come on board. Those who don't will have to deal with their electorate. That is predatory federalism. We have the money, and if you want some, then shake hands. Why does the government have this confrontational approach rather than collaborating with Quebec and the provinces? The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my honourable colleague for the question. With respect to the federal government has been working hand in glove with provincial governments from the first time we got elected in October of 2015. I note in particular the healthcare transfers we made to the provinces, which allow them to take care of their citizens, but also target particular measures for areas such as mental health or in-home care for seniors. I look forward to the upcoming budget so we can continue to invest in partnership with provinces and territories to serve the best interest of Canadian families.
The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Same story. The senior officials revealed that Ottawa's strategy for the budget is to intimidate Quebec and the provinces so that they bend to the will of the federal government or their supplies will be cut off. And the rumors are that this is how the budget will work. Quebec needs an increase in healthcare transfers to 35%. Not only is Ottawa refusing, but it wants to impose Canadian standards on the long-term care homes that the National Assembly of Quebec rejected unanimously, a national pharmacare program that was rejected unanimously by the National Assembly. Why are they simply not meeting the needs of Quebecers? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, my colleague and friend is talking here about rumors, and I want to talk about the facts. The facts is that we're working with Quebec and have been since the beginning of the pandemic. We are talking about equipment and vaccines. And if we look at the announcement that we made together at Lion, the ability to work together, internet in the regions, we're working on that issue. This shows that we should set aside the rumors. Let's talk about the facts. We're working very well with the Quebec government.
Member, l'honorable député de Burnaby.
The Honourable Member for Burnaby South. Thank you. The third wave of COVID-19 is hitting us hard. The variants are spreading rapidly. We saw a record number of cases in Ontario, and the figures are rising in all provinces. Immediately, we need to improve paid sick leave. We must do everything we can to vaccinate Canadians. We must take action now. What is the Prime Minister waiting for?
L'honorable ministre.
The Honourable Minister, Mr. Speaker. In fact, we're not waiting for anything. We're cooperating with all of the provinces, and we have been doing so since the very beginning when it comes to personal protective equipment. You can remember the important role that the Canadian Forces played in the Red Cross in order to help our seniors, look at everything that's being done with regard to cooperation about the acquisition and the deployment of the vaccines. We're working on a daily basis. We talk every day to see how we can improve health and safety and the lives of all Canadians.
Je vais interrompre pour une seconde pour le bien-être de nos interprètes. Ceux qui nous joignent virtuellement, s'ils peuvent mettre leur microphone ou entre leur nez et leurs lèvres d'en haut, ou entre leur menton et leurs lèvres d'en bas, pour que ça soit plus agréable pour les gens qui traduisent ce qui est dit.
The Honourable Member for Burnaby South. Mr. Speaker, Canada is on fire. The variants are spreading rapidly. COVID cases are hitting record numbers. We've seen a record number of COVID-19 cases in Ontario. They're needing to set up field hospitals. Things are very bad. It's not good enough to sit on the sidelines and ask to help. Leadership means finding solutions. Leadership means acting now. Will the Prime Minister immediately improve access to the paid sick leave program, make it better, make it work? And will the Prime Minister use all tools available to assist in vaccinating everyone in this country? Will the Prime Minister act like it is a serious crisis that it is?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the question. I thank the member for his deep concern for Canadians. In fact, it is actually Canada's field hospitals that are on loan to the province of Ontario. It's a demonstration of how the federal government has been there for provinces and territories every step of the way. We will be there, Mr. Speaker, for as long as it takes, for as much as it takes to protect Canadians and to support provinces and territories to deliver in their healthcare jurisdictions. Mr. Speaker, we will stop at nothing. I think our government has demonstrated that.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
The House of Commons directed key players in the Prime Minister's WE scandal to testify at the Ethics Committee. Instead of obeying the will of Canadians, the Prime Minister blocked those witnesses from testifying. Canadians deserve answers. Is the problem that the Prime Minister doesn't understand the rules, or that he believes that the rules don't apply to him?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we believe in the principle of ministerial responsibility. It's been a long tradition in our country. We're accountable to Parliament, and our staff is accountable to us. I appeared at the Ethics Committee for 3 hours to answer many questions. My colleague, the Associate Minister of Finance, was ready to do the same. She showed up twice, but the opposition refused to let her testify in both occasions. So they say they want to ask questions, but at the same time, they refuse for the minister to appear. So they have to make up their mind.
Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
Well, it sounds like the government House leader doesn't understand the question. It's very straightforward. The House ordered witnesses to appear. The Prime Minister, this government, this Liberal government, blocked those witnesses from appearing. So, will the Prime Minister apologize for defying an order of this House? Will he agree to testify at committee, or do we need to build back with a better Prime Minister?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we believe in ministerial accountability. This is why our ministers appear at committees all the time. They answer questions. They love to answer those questions for the opposition, I should say. But the Conservatives want to ignore that tradition. So that was their position at the time. Now, what is it today? Because if I read what the House leader used to say at the time, it was a bit different. Let me quote him. When ministers choose to appear before committees to account for their administration, they are the best source of accountability and they must be heard. Public servants and ministerial staff support the responsibility of the ministers. They do not supplant it.
Honourable Member for Carleton.
Well, it's true the minister was there to answer questions, except he didn't know any of the answers. Right. We asked, for example, why the contract with WE had been backdated more than 6 weeks. He didn't even know that was the case. We asked why it was that they went ahead with a grant after Treasury Board, found no evidence that WE could even deliver the program. He didn't even know that. He didn't know that the Prime Minister's office had received promotional material from WE with his mother and wife in it. Mr. Speaker, didn't they just send this minister over to the committee because he didn't know anything and therefore he couldn't accidentally tell the truth?
That's right.
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the fact is that I was at the committee for 3 hours and I answered many of the questions, and all of this was to talk about a staff member who barely was involved in the issue. There was one phone call, Mr. Speaker, and the opposition decided to have a 3-hour meeting about one phone call instead of concentrating on what's the priority today, Mr. Speaker. So our ministers appear as a committee. It was a pleasure for me to appear at that committee. We do it all the time, but they should use this time that is allowed to them, to the members, to discuss about the priorities of today, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Carleton.
Well, we wanted to hear from the minister responsible, not Minister I don't know. But that's what we got from him. He didn't know any of the facts. We asked question after question, and he broke the Guinness Book of World Records for not having answers, and actually, to his credit, openly admitting that he didn't know any of the answers. So if he doesn't know any of the answers, can they send another minister who can explain why this government gave a $500 million grant to a group that had paid the Prime Minister's family a $500 million?
The Honourable Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, my colleague knew the answers. There's nothing new there. He was reading from a document where the answers were already there. The problem for the Conservatives is they're trying to go, aha, there's something new here, when there's absolutely nothing. All questions have been answered, Mr. Speaker, and we're defending ministerial responsibility, just as the minister who just spoke did defend that for a very long time until he changed his mind, and I wonder why.
The honourable member for Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals on the Defence Committee just shut down the investigation into sexual misconduct allegations against General Vance. These Liberals are preventing key witnesses from appearing before committee and are covering up what the Defence Minister knew about these serious allegations 3 years ago. The self-proclaimed feminist Liberal government wants to bury the truth rather than stand up for the brave women who service in uniform. Why did the Liberal government shut down the Defence Committee investigation that is trying to protect women in the military? What are they trying to hide?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I will always respect the work done by colleagues at the committee. In fact, I worked at with the National Defence Committee on this matter quite extensively. I appeared at the committee 3 times, Mr. Speaker, and also for more than 6 hours. I repeatedly stated that each of these appearances and many times in the House of Commons that our government and me personally will not stand for any form of sexual misconduct, and that we will take strong action on this. And I look forward to the recommendations of the committee when it comes out. Thank you.
The honourable member for Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman.
Well, the minister never did accept any responsibility. And in fact, that is, again, another attempt on his behalf to cover up the sexual misconduct allegations he hid for 3 years. The Liberals say they want answers, but they shut down the very committee investigation that is trying to get to the bottom of them. If the government truly cared about our women and men in uniform, they would be supporting the work of the Defence Committee. Instead, they're trying to stop us from hearing from key witnesses, key Liberal witnesses, so they can cover up their failures. When will the Defence Minister take responsibility for his inaction and stop his minions on committee from obstructing the truth?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the committee makes their own decision, but I absolutely disagree with the member's assertions that he has made. We have taken strong action, Mr. Speaker. In fact, we took strong action when the information was provided, immediate action, and PCO followed up the next day, Mr. Speaker. And I took the time at every opportunity to appear at committee to answer their questions, Mr. Speaker. In fact, over 6 hours, and I look forward to the recommendations on how we can stomp out this inappropriate behavior inside the Canadian Armed Forces. Thank you.
L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Montarville. Mr. Speaker, a senior official revealed to CBC Ottawa's vision about its relations with Quebec. Asked about the interference in areas under provincial jurisdiction in the budget, the senior official said the following: the feds have the spending power. If we set out the terms and the money, the provinces who want to be early movers on this will come on board, and those that don't will have to reckon with their electorate. In other words, we have the money, and if Quebec wants them, they will accept our conditions. What's it? It says, it's the middle of a health crisis. Isn't it rather time to collaborate? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I'm a bit surprised that the Bloc is talking about cooperating, because what they're doing is trying to squabble. It's quite the opposite. He said the feds are showing that they're cooperating. We're getting through this pandemic together. We're providing vaccines. They're distributing them. We're doing this together. We're resolving the issue of internet in the regions. We're doing this together. My colleague should have the decency to recognize that Ottawa and Quebec work very well together. The honourable member for Montarville. Mr. Speaker, the minister did what the Liberals did throughout the weekend, that is to say that the Bloc is looking for a quarrel, yet what the government is letting float in terms of rumors about budget is that squabbles are the strategy it wants to take. Its senior officials are not even hiding the fact that they want to interfere in areas under provincial and Quebec jurisdiction, setting the conditions. Is it really the time to resort to such blackmail? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, my colleague knows full well, and I know that we transferred additional funds, about $7 billion to Quebec, approximately, without any conditions whatsoever, but through the will to cooperate. And that's what we've been doing since the very beginning. We have a very pragmatic approach like Quebec, and that is to get out of this crisis as strong as possible, protect the health of all Quebecers, resolve the problems, the issue of internet in the regions, the aeronautic industry, and do this with Quebecers together. But the Bloc Québécois doesn't like this, and they're not happy. The honourable member for Montarville. Mr. Speaker, instead of seeking a quarrel by interfering in areas under Quebec's jurisdiction, Ottawa should take care of its own areas of jurisdiction. If it had managed the borders as everybody wanted since the beginning of the crisis, schools might not be threatened by the variants. If vaccines had been procured more quickly, perhaps we wouldn't be in the darkest red zones now. We're paying dearly for the failures of this government at the border and in terms of access to vaccines. How can they think today that they can give any lessons whatsoever to anyone else? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, the Bloc will have to understand. 2 weeks ago, just before we went on our constituency weeks, they said we need to work. And now they're saying we need to control the borders. They have to be clear about what they're saying. We're being as strict as we can at the border, the strictest in the world, because we want to ensure the health and safety of all Quebecers and all Canadians.
Wellington, Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, over the weekend, reports indicated the government threatened to cancel funding for the Halifax Security Forum if they awarded the John McCain Prize to Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen. The government's attempt to silence those critical of China is shameful, and it's counterproductive because it plays right into China's hand. Will the government reverse its position, speak out for human rights, democracy, and the rule of law, and support the John McCain Prize for President Tsai Ing-wen?
Minister. The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we will always be there to defend human rights. We have been there in the case of China. Very recently, we have imposed sanctions on the individuals that were identified with respect to the treatment of Uyghurs in Xinjiang. And we have always spoken up very clearly, whether it is in China or in other countries, to defend the rights, the human rights of people living in those countries, because it is part of our fundamental values. Thank you.
Member for Wellington, Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, it's essential to determine the exact origin of the coronavirus in order to prevent the next pandemic. However, we still don't know the exact origins of this virus because Chinese leaders obstructed the WHO investigation. Will the government recognize that the WHO gave in to pressure from China, and will it work with our allies in order to demand that this organization be reformed? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, we very clearly recognized in a report in which we participated with other countries, we recognized that more must be done in order to better understand the origins of COVID-19. The report was submitted by the World Health Organization. It talks about the shortcomings. More information is needed to understand the situation. Canada and a number of other countries recognize that fact, and we encourage the World Health Organization to go further in order to better understand the origins of this pandemic.
Halton Hills.
The Honourable Member for Wellington Halton Hills.
Following up on that answer from the Minister, Taiwan's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic has been one of the most successful in the world. With a population of only 23 million, Taiwan has only had about 1,000 coronavirus cases and 10 deaths. In May, Canada, along with other countries, will be participating in the meeting of the World Health Organization, but Taiwan has not been invited, even though it had observer status till 2017. Does the government support Taiwan's participation at next month's meeting?
Honourable Minister.
I want to pick up on what my honourable colleague said, and certainly very clearly state that Taiwan has been extremely successful in handling the COVID-19 pandemic within its own country. And I think that there are things to be learned from their experience. And we feel that dealing with the issue of the pandemic is something that should involve all those who have been forced to handle this very difficult situation.
L'honorable député de Rosemont.
The Honourable Member for Rosemont-Patrie.
Monsieur le Président, le fleuve Saint...
Mr. Speaker, the St. Lawrence is one of our most precious jewels, with hundreds of kilometers of vast biodiversity. The NDP supports the proposal made by the International Observatory on the Rights of Nature and asks that legal status be granted to the St. Lawrence River because it is in danger. Unbridled industrialization is putting many species at risk, namely the port expansion project in Côte-Rôcaire, the Laurentian Project Quebec, the LNG expansion are just a few examples. Before it's too late, will the new Environmental Protection Act include the recognition of the rights of nature?
Ministre.
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to protecting fresh water and ensuring a safe and secure supply of water for generations to come. We have a strong and comprehensive approach, and we've taken concrete and measurable actions to protect our water. That includes investing $35.1 million over 5 years to implement the St. Lawrence Action Plan. We're protecting the St. Lawrence through science, partnership, including with Indigenous peoples and community initiatives. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Victoria.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister was quick to say the Conservatives were out of touch when they voted against acknowledging climate change at their convention. But this weekend, 70% of Liberal delegates voted against ending fossil fuel subsidies to big polluters. The last time I called on the Prime Minister to end fossil fuel subsidies, he said his government was on track to phasing them out. But recent reports show that's just not true. Now, not only are we not on schedule, Canada's actually increased these subsidies year after year. If the Liberals know there's a climate crisis but refuse to take the necessary action, are they really that different from the Conservatives?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank the honourable member, and I know the report that she's quoting includes money that the NDP has voted in favour of to clean up abandoned orphan wells. We're working on ending fossil fuel subsidies, and we've taken real action on climate change and will continue to do so. And I hope members of the NDP continue to push forward for real action and help us move C12 through Parliament and into committee. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député de Brome-Missisquoi.
The Honourable Member for Brome-Missisquoi.
Monsieur le Président, le début de l'année.
Mr. Speaker, the beginning of 2021 had its share of challenges and anxiety, but the results of government efforts to ensure vaccine supply are a great source of comfort. The objective of 6 million doses by March 31st has been achieved, and it has even been surpassed by 3.5 million additional doses. This is remarkable. Can the Minister update this House on what is going to be happening this week, this month, and this quarter?
Merci.
The Honourable Minister. Thank you for the question. My colleague is right. We will be receiving Pfizer doses faster than expected. Canada has received 2.4 million doses. 400,000 doses will be delivered to Quebec. Canada is now on track to receive 44 million vaccine doses by the end of June. We are well on our way to achieving our objectives by the end of the summer. Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Across Canada, given frequent recent changes in advice from the federal government, people are asking questions about the AstraZeneca vaccine and about vaccine dosing interval advice in Canada. Some of this might have been alleviated if the media had access to the process by which the National Advisory Committee on Immunization, or NACI, develops its advice and how that's being used by the government. Most other developed nations have given the media access to their version of NACI. Why hasn't Canada's Minister of Health done the same?
The Honourable Minister.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I will just point the member to the website, which the NACI website, which will actually list the decisions that NACI has made and the underpinning science and research that goes behind those decisions. I'll also point out that any member any member across the world, in fact, but any Canadian can sign up for regular updates from NACI. I have, and it's very helpful.
The honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Bit misleading, Mr. Speaker, because NACI has not allowed media access into its meetings. And in the last couple of weeks, we've had advice that said that AstraZeneca is safe for all age groups, then that it's only safe for 55 to 63, but not under 55. Then the federal government said it was pausing the use of the AstraZeneca vaccine, and a few minutes later said that the government wasn't pausing the use of the AstraZeneca advice, or the other way around. Given that NACI is a body created and appointed by the federal government, will the minister give a directive to allow media into the meetings?
The Honourable Minister.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And as we've talked about before, as science and research evolves, so will the advice from the variety of different researchers and scientists that are advising Canadians. I will also point to the fact that it appears the member opposite is, in fact, trying to instill fear and anxiety in Canadians. And I would say that now is the time to remind Canadians that any vaccine approved for use in Canada is safe, and we will continue to monitor science and research and update Canadians as that science and research evolves.
L'honorable député de Charbon.
The honourable member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm going to ask again because my colleague didn't get an answer earlier when it came to the Halifax Forum meeting. The Security Forum wants to give the John McCain Prize to the President of Taiwan, who's fighting for democracy in the world. I want to know if this government has changed its mind, and will they maintain their funding for this important forum? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for that question. This organization is an independent organization, and they make their own decisions regarding these matters. In fact, when it comes to the funding, Mr. Speaker, on two separate, I authorized two separate funding authorizations last year, one in September and one in November, Mr. Speaker. We have supported the Halifax International Security Forum for the last 10 years. Thank you.
L'honorable député de
The honourable member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to come back to vaccines. For months, the Prime Minister has risen in this House and insisted repeatedly to Canadians that we have the best vaccine portfolio in the world. But the truth is that the Prime Minister has failed. Yesterday, the Globe and Mail informed us that Canada had surpassed the United States in terms of cases per capita for the first time. The United States are progressively returning to normal life, but here the provinces have to tighten restrictions and add on to them. Canadians are ready and willing, but they are tired of living in uncertainty. When will the Prime Minister admit that he has failed in negotiating vaccine contracts? The Honourable Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, merci beaucoup pour la question.
Thank you very much for the question.
That 20% of Canadians have received at least one dose of vaccine. Canada now stands 8th in the G20 in terms of doses administered per 100 people. We have received 10.5 million doses in this country to date. We are on track to receive 44 million doses by the end of June and 110 million doses by the end of September. So, Mr. Speaker, I would ask the opposition to cooperate and collaborate with all Canadians in the middle of this third wave so that we can ensure that all Canadians are vaccinated as soon as possible.
L'honorable député de Shefford.
The honourable member for Shefford.
Durant leur congrès, les libéraux ont adopté.
During their convention, the Liberals passed a resolution to ask for an increase in old age security at age 70 instead of at 75, even though the government supports the increase at age 75. They're getting closer to the Bloc's position of increasing this for everyone 65 and over, and that's the right position. But for now, this still creates two classes of seniors, those between 65 and 70, and those 70 and over. Why not simply increase the pension for everyone at age 65? The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much to my honourable colleague for that question. We know seniors are living longer than ever before and are worried about rising healthcare costs and running out of savings as they get older. That's why we've reaffirmed our commitment to increase old age pensions by 10% for seniors aged 75 and over. It will bolster the financial security of over 3 million seniors and lift 25,000 seniors out of poverty, 2/3 of whom are women. Seniors built the Canada we know and love today, and they can be assured that our government will be there for them. Thank you.
L'honorable député de Shefford.
The honourable member for Shefford. Mr. Speaker, this is basically age discrimination. Every senior is experiencing a loss of purchasing power, dealing with pandemic-related price increases, suffering from lockdowns, isolation, and the sacrifices they've made. All seniors need better support from the federal government. The government finally has recognized this and publicly stated that it will increase the old age pension. But how can they justify their illogical position to seniors left behind between ages 65 and 70 and those who are 75 and older? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to touch on the point that my colleague raised about seniors' isolation because it is a very serious issue that we're dealing with. During the COVID-19 pandemic, programs supporting local seniors and seniors organizations are more important than ever before. We have funded over 5,000 community support projects supporting seniors to stay active and socially connected during the pandemic through the New Horizons for Seniors program. This year, increased funding and improvements to the program resulted in the highest number of applications ever, almost double the number of projects serving rural seniors and a greater share of funding projects for vulnerable seniors. It's important we provide them with programs and support that they need and deserve. Thank you.
The honourable member for Kildonan St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, the universal basic income is an expensive, risky, and untested experiment that will leave millions of Canadians behind as we continue to battle the pandemic. An extensive study by economists from 3 of Canada's leading universities said UBI is, quote, not the best policy option to effectively tackle poverty, and will instead leave seniors, people with disabilities, youth aging out of care, and low-income Canadians worse off. Further, we know UBI is estimated to cost an additional $93 billion annually. So will the Prime Minister be cutting critical social programs or raising taxes to fund this risky experiment, or both?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for her question. At the outset of this pandemic, we made certain that we were going to be there for Canadians in their time of need. That approach led to the creation of the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, which has now landed on the kitchen tables of more than 9 million Canadians. As we come out of this pandemic and look to continue to support Canadians as we enter the recovery phase, we're going to be considering different options to ensure that Canadians have the means to make ends meet now and going forward. But my message to everyone listening today is that we're going to be there for you as long as it takes, no matter what it takes.
The honourable member for Lambton, Kent, Middlesex.
Mr. Speaker, with the ongoing lockdowns,
thanks to the Prime Minister's vaccine problems, Canadians who live and work in rural communities are stuck without reliable internet broadband service. Farms, small businesses are severely hampered by no access to high-speed internet for conducting daily business like processing credit card transactions or monitoring their barns or their greenhouses. Even cell-based internet is intermittent at best, and it can cost hundreds of dollars a month. So when will this government stop the empty promises and start delivering reliable broadband for rural Canadians?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, life without high-speed internet and cell service is difficult. In the best of times, it's been particularly hard for rural, suburban, and Canadians living in smaller communities. We've been working to connect Canadians since our first mandate, and we've set aside the single largest investment in Canadian history in broadband. Just last week, we announced the connections along the Highway of Tears. We are connecting tens of thousands of Canadians through the Rapid Response Universal Broadband Fund. We're working with our partners at SWIFT and EORN, and more good news to come.
L'honorable député de Beauce.
The honourable member for Beauce.
Monsieur le Président, le gouvernement libéral...
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal government continues to leave behind Quebecers and Canadians when it comes to high-speed internet connections. Big actors on the scene continue to get taxpayer money, and they continue to connect highly placed executives like Bell's CEO. In surrounding areas, only 20% of regular Quebecers have access to adequate service. There's even a petition circulating in the Liberal riding of Pontiac. The Liberals are now in full campaign mode, making promises with no follow-through as usual. When will the government finally implement their action plan? The Honourable Minister.
Monsieur le Président, nous avons livré pour les...
Mr. Speaker, we have delivered for Quebec's men and women. The Prime Minister announced...
En anglais. Mr. Speaker, we are delivering for Quebecers. The Prime Minister made a historic announcement with the Premier of Quebec to connect every single Quebecer to high-speed internet over the next 2 years. This is a reflection of the hard work of the Liberal Quebecers in caucus. They've done the heavy lifting. We're getting Quebecers connected, and we will connect every Canadian to this essential service.
The honourable member for Cape Breton-Canso.
Mr. Speaker, the inshore fisheries of Canada's East Coast are often family-run businesses that drive rural, local, regional, and national economies. The fisheries in Cape Breton-Canso are the pride of our communities. And I'd like to know how our government is helping these family-run businesses prosper during these difficult times.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I want to also thank my honourable colleague, not only for the question, but for his hard work working with harvesters as well as the seafood sector in his riding. Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to announce that our government put in place new measures to strengthen the independence of our hardworking inshore license holders in Quebec and Atlantic Canada to ensure that economic benefits stay with them and within their communities. By enshrining the policies of owner-operator and fleet separation into law, we'll be able to ensure that the revenue from the fishery stays in our coastal rural communities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Caribou Prince George.
Last weekend, the Prime Minister had the opportunity to acknowledge Canada's mental health crisis and the ongoing opioid crisis as he addressed his Liberal colleagues. Not once did he mention mental health or opioids. 140 days ago, parliamentarians voted unanimously to implement 988 as a 3-digit national suicide hotline. Where is it? Liberal amendments to MAID unbelievably will make it easier for Canadians struggling with mental illness to end their lives. As Canadians face two crises that are worsening by the day, why has the Prime Minister thrown in the towel and given up on our most vulnerable?
The Honourable Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the member opposite knows that none of that is true. And he also knows that we've done more than any government to manage and to support people who are living with opioid issues and who are living with problematic substance use. He also knows that it was actually the Conservatives that had a very cruel policy of eliminating harm reduction and refusing to look at the evidence and science on substance use. And so, Mr. Speaker, I will continue to work with the member opposite on the hotline that he knows we are working with him on, but it would be very helpful if the member opposite acknowledged things like wellnesstogether.ca so his constituents as well can get access to the help they need.
The honourable member for Medicine Hat Carson Warner.
Mr. Speaker, pandemic restrictions are supposed to be temporary measures to buy time and get appropriate plans in place to protect Canadians. Emergency management best practices are designed to 1. Contain the spread and reduce illness and death, 2. Mitigate societal disruption, 3. Minimize the adverse economic impacts, and 4. Support efficient use of resources. Well, the Liberals have failed in all 4. Why? Because they continue to ignore the practices of emergency management. When will Canadians be given an actual plan on recovery?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, every step of the way, we have been there for provinces and territories. In fact, to do exactly what the member has suggested. We have provided billions of dollars, Mr. Speaker. We've provided evidence, expertise, additional hands, Mr. Speaker, rapid response programs, Canadian Red Cross, even more money, Mr. Speaker, all the vaccines, all the testing, all the PPE. Mr. Speaker, we've done everything we can and will continue to do everything we can so that every Canadian can get through this safely. And, Mr. Speaker, we'll continue to be there for provinces and territories as they deliver on their healthcare responsibilities.
The Honourable Member for Charleswood St. James, Assiniboia Headingley.
Mr. Speaker, to pay for raises, jet rides, payments to insiders, and other lavish expenses, the Liberal government continues to increase taxes on Canadians who are just barely getting by. For some, a nice cold beer on a hot summer's day was a relatively inexpensive comfort, but sadly, that too is being taxed away. Is nothing sacred anymore? What other taxes is the government going to increase to pay for their lavish expenses?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, with great respect to my honourable colleague, the line of questioning he just launched is absolutely ludicrous. From day one, we have made it a priority to support middle-class Canadians and have not been afraid to ask the wealthiest Canadians to pay more. The very first thing we did when we came into office is raise taxes on the wealthiest 1% and cut them for the middle class. We expanded the Canada Child Benefit program that put more money in the pockets of 9 out of 10 Canadian families. And the very first thing after the 2019 campaign was offer a middle-class tax cut for 20 million Canadians. The thing that these policies have in common, Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives voted against them. So I will take no lessons from my honourable colleague opposite.
The Honourable Member for Newmarket, Aurora.
Mr. Speaker, one of the most vulnerable populations impacted by COVID-19 was seniors. The Minister of Seniors recently announced funding to support seniors as we continue to face this pandemic. Can the Minister please tell this House how this funding is helping seniors across Canada?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member from Newmarket, Aurora, for his advocacy on behalf of seniors and for letting me share this exciting news for his riding and communities across Canada. This year, through the New Horizons for Seniors program, we're funding more than 3,000 community-based projects to support seniors. These projects will help seniors stay active, informed, and socially connected during the pandemic. Our improvements and funding increase to the program resulted in almost double the number of projects serving rural seniors and a greater share of funded projects serving vulnerable seniors. This is great news for seniors all across Canada. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Burnaby South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canada is on fire. People are worried, they are afraid, and they are frustrated. And to my question, pointing out the fact that Ontario now has to set up field hospitals, the Minister of Health made it sound like that's a point of pride for the Liberal government, that they sent the materials required for it. It's a mark of failure that we're at this point. So what we're calling for is immediate action. It's not good enough to respond to the crisis by saying you sent tents for a hospital. We're saying what we need to do immediately is make it easier to get paid sick leave and make sure everyone in this country is vaccinated. Will you do that?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I think that the member opposite is missing the point. And the point is that we have been there every step of the way for provinces and territories, including billions of dollars, Mr. Speaker, expertise, Mr. Speaker, personal protective equipment, vaccines, rapid tests, PCR tests, Mr. Speaker. And what my point is, Mr. Speaker, is that we will not stop. We will be there for provinces, territories, and all the Canadians in them. No matter what this virus throws at us, Mr. Speaker, we're there for Canadians, including those financial supports that he references.
The honourable member for Nanaimo Ladysmith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. From 1938 to 1974, the Bank of Canada provided very low interest loans to the federal and provincial governments for public infrastructure projects. Since 1974, the federal government has been borrowing from private banks and foreign lenders instead. $1.3 trillion in interest has been paid on those loans. That is 1.3 trillion taxpayer dollars paid to private banks and foreign lenders. Will the government start using the Bank of Canada again for public infrastructure funding?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate the honourable member's question. There's a couple key points that I'd like to offer in response. One, the activities of the Bank of Canada, including to whom it lends, are made completely independently of the bank. I will note that the bank has put forward a number of measures over the course of the pandemic to ensure that there's sufficient liquidity in the financial system in Canada that will allow the government to offer its suite of programs for both the federal government and the various provinces. In addition, though, Mr. Speaker, I'd point out to the honourable member that we're currently benefiting from the lowest interest rate on government financing that we've had access to in over a century. Mr. Speaker, as we launch forward into additional programs that will fund public infrastructure that will create good jobs in the short term and to set the stage for long-term growth, we're going to do it in a fiscally responsible way.
I'm afraid that's all the time we have today for question period. C'est tout le temps que nous avons aujourd'hui. We have a point of order, I believe, the honourable member for Kingston and the Islands.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as you know, our standing orders prevent us from engaging in dialogue and discourse that would be considered dishonorable. And in particular, Standing Order 18 says that remarks directed specifically at another member which question that member's integrity, honesty, or character are not in order. Today, during question period, the member from Selkirk Interlake Eastman referred to other members on the Standing Committee of National Defence as minions. I'm wondering if he would like to apologize for making that comment to this House and for violating that standing order.
The honourable member for Selkirk Interlake Eastman. I don't think he's responding, but I will take that under advisement and return to the House should we find it necessary. I believe we had another point of order. That's it? Okay, very good. Now we'll go on. Tabling of documents. Il est de mon devoir de
It is my duty to lay upon the table, pursuant to Standing Order, or rather Section 556 of the Elections Act of Canada, a report concerning the by-elections of 2020.
Standing Order 32.5, this report is deemed to have been permanently referred to the Standing Committee on Procedures and House Affairs. Tabling of documents, the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pursuant to Standing Order 36 bracket 8A, I have the honor to table in both official languages the government's responses to 104 petitions. These returns will be tabled